For decades, we've watched American manufacturing bleed out. Tool factories shuttered, jobs lost, production moved overseas, and made in the USA becoming more of a memory than a reality. I reported on this decline from the Craftsman plant closing here in Texas to the recent Stanley plant closure in Connecticut. But today the story is different. This isn't a story about a tool factory closing, but one that's coming back from the dead. The big question is, can this revival actually work? Or are we just delaying the inevitable? The company that I'm talking about is SHOPSMITH. Now, I reported a few months back that SHOPSMITH had ceased operations and was looking for a buyer, and it happened. So for now, the company's back in business, but whether or not they stay that way depends upon what happens next. And I recently sat down with the new SHOPSMITH CEO to talk about how they're going to bring the company back from the brink. So in this video, we're going to talk about SHOPSMITH's revival. We're going to talk about how they got to this point and what they plan to do to turn things around. So let me start with a question. What does it take to run a good tool business? Well, the first thing you need is to have a good product. And of course, that's a given. Well, then from there, you need to have quality materials and manufacturing. You definitely need good marketing. If people don't know about your product, they can't buy it. Then there's the business itself. You need to have good management. You need to keep your expenses under control, and you need to keep your sales high so that you have more money coming in than going out. Basic business stuff. Now, all of that is easy to say, but it's much harder to actually do. And that's kind of what brought SHOPSMITH to this point. Now, if you're watching this video, you probably already know what SHOPSMITH is, but if not, let me fill you in. SHOPSMITH is a company that makes the ultimate multi-tool. There are two different versions of it. There's the Mark V and the Mark VII. The Mark V is a 5-in-1 tool which can do the work of a table saw, a lathe, a disc sander, a horizontal boring machine, and a drill press. The Mark VII is similar, but can become 7 tools, including all the tools of the Mark V, plus an over-table shaper, and an under-table router. All of that makes the SHOPSMITH an ideal tool for workshops with very little space. The thing about SHOPSMITH is that they've been around for about 70 years. They became popular in the 1950s with craftsmen and woodworkers who didn't have a lot of space. And that's really SHOPSMITH's strength. Now, they've been around for a long time, but they've never been a huge tool company, not like DeWalt or Milwaukee. But they've always had a solid product with a cult-like following of people who swear by their SHOPSMITHs. But that strong following hasn't stopped the company from running into a few problems over the years. They've almost gone out of business numerous times, including multiple bankruptcies. So if their product is so solid, why have they had so much trouble? Well, that was a question that I asked directly to the new CEO of SHOPSMITH, Andrew Deutsch, and he told me the whole story.
They opened retail stores. When those retail stores were doing pretty well at SHOPSMITH stores, they had this idea to turn it into a total woodworking store. And there was a concept. And it was there at a cost of a couple $1 million a store. They overdid it. And when that all sort of fell apart and the owner was going to retire, his sons weren't the right choice at that time to take over the business. They hired a couple of CEOs that were just disasters. Overspent. As the company was spiraling, the sons ended up taking over the business and made it worse. Then they had this brilliant idea out of bankruptcy to sell the business to one of their wives to be a woman-owned business, thinking that that would get them tax breaks and stuff. But so about 3 years ago, an investor bought the company, knew nothing about manufacturing, was not a woodworker, and thought that with some financial, he could next level it, sell it to PE, and make his money.
So that was a bit of a roller coaster, I'll admit, but it tells the whole story of how businesses fail. Overexpansion is a huge problem, and if companies spread themselves too thin without a corresponding and quick increase in revenues, then they'll go out of business, even with a good product. I'm sure that you can probably name a bunch of other companies that did the same thing. Then there's the issue of the owners handing it off to their kids. That almost never turns out well for most companies, as the second generation is rarely as motivated as the founder. Then there is the most recent iteration, and this is one that's really typical of our times. Investors hoping for a quick turnaround to sell to venture capital and make a small fortune. Now, none of that panned out for the last owner, unfortunately, and the biggest reason was that he didn't understand the product or how to market it. So does the new company leadership know how to bring it back and avoid the same problems in the past? Well, we're going to talk about their plan, but before I do that, I want to tell you about this video's sponsor, American Financing. There's a lot going on in the world today, and the economy feels shaky in a way that it hasn't felt in a long time. Between persistent inflation and higher gas and food prices, a lot of us are feeling squeezed, and a lot of people are turning to high-interest credit cards to fill the gap. But if you're a homeowner, that's where American Financing can help. American Financing customers are saving an average of $800 a month by using today's rates in the 5s to wipe out high-interest debt. That's real money back in your pocket at a time when everything else is getting more expensive. With American Financing, there are no upfront fees, no pressure, and if you start today, you could delay 2 mortgage payments, giving you even more breathing room. They're also taking a different approach to the industry with salary-based mortgage consultants. These are people who are not paid on commission, so their job is to help you build a real plan for your future, not just upsell you. So if you're feeling the weight of this economy, give them a call at 866-890-9749. That's 866-890-9749 or AmericanFinancing.net/DIY with Dave. It costs nothing to call them and see what they can do for you. Now let's get back to the video. Business leaders will often do what's called a SWOT analysis, which stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And you'll often see it represented with 4 quadrants like this. This is a strategic exercise that helps companies think through what they need to do in order to be successful in business. And the CEO of SHOPSMITH has done his homework. First, let's talk about their strengths. And for that, let me play you a few clips from our conversation.
The brand loyalty among ShopSmith is, in a positive form, a cult. If you're a ShopSmith guy, somebody goes online and S-talks our stuff, ShopSmith is the woodworker's Taylor Swift.
Now that has got to be one of ShopSmith's biggest strengths by far. People who have ShopSmiths and who use them tend to love them. That's something most other tool brands simply don't have. They just don't have that kind of pull with their customer base. Added to that, they have a flagship product that they can build the rest of the company around. The next strength comes from how they acquired the business.
The bank ended up taking the business.
Oh, okay.
So we did what's called an Article 9 purchase, which means that we bought just the assets of the company, none of the liabilities. So we got all of the manufacturing equipment, all of the inventory, all of the IP, and a company that had been closed for 4 months.
Now, the importance of this really can't be overstated. Buying a business is an expensive proposition, and it's not a guaranteed success. And so being able to acquire all of the good without any of the bad is incredible. That said, there are still some obligations that they honored even though they didn't have to.
Now, there were some vendor obligations. You know, if you're the guy who owed $30,000 for castings that were never paid, and you have all of the tooling, you're certainly not going to sell me new castings until somebody catches up that bill.
Right.
So we had calculated into our investment cost catching up what we would call critical vendors. So our casting, our powder coating facility, all these different people we do business with, component machine shops that do certain things that we then assemble in-house, we caught all of them up and rebuilt those relationships.
Mm-hmm.
We also, unfortunately, there was a significant number of machines that were sold that never got delivered, but were fully paid.
Mm-hmm.
So, and you can imagine the loyalty to a brand. Imagine yourself, you want a ShopSmith and you spent $6,000, put it on your credit card. They went out of business, and you still haven't called your credit card company to get a charge back, thinking that the new guys are going to supply. So we legally, not my problem. Ethically, and for the brand, 100% my problem.
Yeah.
So as we're bringing manufacturing back up, we're going to fulfill those orders.
Now, this is an important thing to keep in mind. They are focused on their main strength, that cult-like following that they have. While they have no legal obligation, if they didn't fulfill the outstanding customer orders from the customers that really care about that product, then that customer loyalty can erode in seconds and word gets around. And also their reputation with suppliers is extremely important for how their business operates going forward. And so again, fulfilling their obligations to those suppliers is extremely important. Another important strength that they have is how many ShopSmith machines are out there. Andrew says that there are over 800,000 ShopSmiths that are out in circulation, out being used by people, and that's an incredible opportunity for the business. So those are strengths. Let's talk about weaknesses. One of the first weaknesses is the cost. Now, this is not a cheap tool. The Mark V costs around $5,000, and the Mark VII costs around $6,000. And I asked Andrew point blank how they plan to add new customers with that price point. And here's what he said. You know, how are you going to convince people to buy a ShopSmith if they haven't before?
Yeah. Well, first of all, the biggest issue that they had, which I think was a huge failure, is that you got to buy all 7 tools.
Okay.
The Mark VII, the number of Mark V, Mark VII has nothing to do with the generation, which I think is confusing as hell. The Mark V is you get 5 tools, Mark VII, you get 7 tools. And what generation has to do with what power head and other stuff's on it. So we're looking at programs. It'll be there's 3 ways to buy it. One will be the current. You can buy the Mark VII. Second is you can buy the Mark VII and all of the other accessories, the bandsaw, the joiner, all of that stuff, in a massive package and finance it. And then the new way is going to be using a web configurator, which we haven't finished building yet. So you would get the base with a much lower entry point of cost. It'll be a table saw, disc sander, the drill press, and the horizontal boring. That's it.
Okay.
But that's your basic shop, couple grand cheaper, maybe more, as your entry level. And then on the website, as you're building it, you'll be able to click and add in a configurator which additional modalities you'd like to have. Mm-hmm. Not everybody wants a lathe. Very few want the shaper router. It's above table shaper, under table router system. It's not for everybody. So you'll be able to have a much lower entry point to get in, which is a lot less sticker shock than what's there. We're also going to retroactively bring back what used to be the mechanical head version, which people have loved for all these years, as the ShopSmith Classic. Now that machine can do everything that the current 7 tool can do, except for shaper and router. It's a pulley system instead of a direct brushless system.
Okay.
There's a different motor in it. It's less expensive to make. Fixing the sticker shock is going to be part of it.
Now, one problem with package deals is that in many cases, people don't buy because they feel like they're overspending on some feature that they don't want or don't need. Offering other options and offering customers the ability to customize is going to help some of those customers pull the trigger and buy the product. If you can get exactly what you want, you're more likely to buy it. And one of the amazing things about ShopSmith is that you can always add those other tools later. It's all customizable. Now, going back to weaknesses, another one is the aging customer base. Now, I told Andrew that I didn't know anyone my age, let alone anyone younger than me, that uses a ShopSmith, despite there being so many ShopSmiths out there. And one of the challenges is how complex the tool is. And maybe some of that is perception, but some people are scared away by that complexity. And here's what he had to say about that.
We're going back to the first conversation. It was demoed in person. Now there's no brick and mortar. There's no demos happening. And the reliance on people checking it out on a YouTube video and understanding, someone's going to check a box for 6,000 and hit send because they saw it on YouTube. No, he didn't have a sales and marketing structure. Didn't have salespeople in-house that could even handle the kind of calls to convince someone to buy. When I was doing the research, I would call for a test call and say, well, why would I buy a ShopSmith when I could just go get a table saw and a drill press and a lathe? And the answer was, well, ShopSmith's been around for 75 years. It's good. Well, no, I don't. I mean, that was the level of the salesmanship. Yeah. So we're building a demonstration studio, multi-camera, live feed. So imagine you're interested in a ShopSmith and you want to book a meeting. So you'll go on the website and you'll tell me, I'm thinking of making birdhouses, or I really want to get into lathe turning, or I want to build cabinets for my house. Give us an idea. Now you jump onto this call, and instead of me sitting here, I'm in the studio behind a ShopSmith machine. I've got multiple cameras and a switcher, and I'm going to give you a demonstration interacting with you like you would for whatever, so that you can really see what's going on and help you and close the deal. This is what you need. And then with the package, you're going to get an additional, because I could spend an hour showing you all these functions. You get the thing home, you follow the directions, you put it together, and you go, well, I don't remember how we did that. How do you switch from table saw? So you're going to get an additional coaching class in that same studio. So that part of it, to be able to one-on-one sell. We've got people that love ShopSmith that want to make money. They're going to go back out on the road. They're going to set up at the county fair and the state fair. That Lowe's has an agreement with us. We can go to a Lowe's parking lot and set it up and sell the equipment because they know that it helps them to sell sandpaper and everything else.
Sure.
So that's going to happen.
Now, this is going to be huge. You can't acquire new customers if the customers don't understand the tool or don't know how to use it. And these kinds of demonstrations were key in the past, and they're going to be key to selling it in the future. But I want to ask you a question. If you were considering buying a ShopSmith, would a demonstration like this be enough? Or would you have to see it in person to be comfortable to lay out that kind of cash to buy it? Leave me a comment, let me know. All right, so we've talked about their strengths and their weaknesses and some of the actions they plan to take to mitigate those. Let's now talk about some of their opportunities. Now, one opportunity that I see out there is the downsizing boom. We've got all these baby boomers and Gen X who may be living in large homes and may be considering downsizing soon. And if that happens, they may consider a tool like this to save space in what is now a smaller garage or shop. That's definitely an opportunity. Next are some other opportunities that ShopSmith is exploring that could help them sell a lot of new tools. Here's what Andrew had to say about that.
What we're working on now with several other tool manufacturers, the school wood shop in a box. A school system wants to bring wood shop back in. How many students are going to be in the classroom? You're going to get this many machines, this many planes, the toolbox, the benches, and a curriculum. We're developing that for 2027. Yeah, there's one other market that we're looking at, which is crazy. And homeowners associations for 55 and older are always looking for amenities to get men to agree to downsize. And they have sewing rooms, and they have theaters, and they have quilting rooms and all of that. We've talked to 4 different major HOA developers about selling that same school shop for having a wood shop as an amenity to get people to want to go. And then lastly is a guy like me. I've got a shop that makes Norm jealous. someday if I decided to downsize and now I've got a one-car garage, Shopsmith's perfect for me.
I find the HOA angle fascinating. And honestly, it's a great idea to sell a tool like this to an organization like that. And Shop Class, that's how you really get the next generation interested in not only woodworking, but in tools. And if their first woodworking experience is on a tool like this, they're not going to need any of those demos, and they're going to already be familiar with it and want to use it in the future. And one thing that's interesting about Shop Classes is they're making a comeback. A lot of schools are bringing back into the trades with AI and other things that are taking away, the potential for some jobs in the future. The trades are going to become really important. And so I could see a boom for a machine like this. Another interesting opportunity lies with those 800,000 or so Shopsmiths already out there. You see them all the time. In fact, if you were to go to Facebook Marketplace right now, you could buy one. Those older machines are an opportunity because they're all compatible. You can upgrade those older machines with modern parts.
But if you bought the machine in 1963, we can upgrade it to a modern machine.
Right.
We can sell you those parts. We can upgrade the tables. We can do all of that. So that's one big market, and people are constantly improving and doing that with their tools. So for every mark that we sell, we're selling 2 power heads to upgrade previous. Or if you've got that machine and you know how to tinker, I'll sell you the guts. You can upgrade the head you have. Use the existing casting because everything retrofits.
Now this part is fascinating to me. What other tool has that kind of longevity? I can't think of any. But if you know of any tool like that, leave me a comment and let me know. It's really a testament to how cool this product really is, that you're able to be compatible to something that is so old. And the fact that that old thing is still in operation is kind of incredible. Now, another opportunity that I see here is the Shopsmith brand itself. The Shopsmith logo is iconic, and the brand has been around for 3/4 of a century. And Shopsmith branded tools, equipment, or even merch would sell really well, I think. And they are looking into that. They're also looking into expanding into other product areas. They're looking to sell products on their website. But one of the amazing things here is that they are still focused on manufacturing in the USA and plan to predominantly manufacture everything they sell in the USA, which is a lot more than you can say about almost any other tool company. So that is some of their strengths, some of their weaknesses, some of their opportunities. But now let's talk about the threats. Now, this product has been around for so long that much of it is out of patent. And there have been at certain points in the past some Chinese knockoffs out there. In fact, for a long time, Harbor Freight sold a version of the Shopsmith in their catalog. It's not there anymore, of course. Now, there aren't any current knockoffs on the market, at least none that I'm aware of. But Andrew expects that when the Shopsmith makes a comeback, that there could be more knockoffs out there. And honestly, it's a huge problem across the board. There's a lot of tool companies that are really seeing a lot of knockoffs cut into their business, and that's something that we talked about. Here's what he had to say.
Now, certainly, when we come back to prominence and we're selling hundreds of these machines every month, and people love the Shopsmith brand, again, new people come into it, certainly somebody's going to, try to interfere and do something. I mean, it doesn't take long for one of the most admired woodworking companies, in my opinion, for tools is either Woodpecker or Katz Moses. They make incredible stuff. Every time he goes out with a tool, some knucklehead overseas copies it.
Oh yeah.
And then you can buy the generic. Now his tool is better than theirs. And then the question to the consumer is, and you see there's how many guys have YouTube pages based on why the Chinese tool's a better buy because they get a commission from Amazon when they sell it.
Right.
At the end of the day, they don't hold the same specifications. They're not, he has a prestigious brand and people do business with him. He gets knocked off all the time. What are you going to do about it? They're not, it's not a patent.
So we talked about a lot of other things. For example, how tariffs are impacting their business and how they plan on enhancing customer service, as well as some challenges they've had with their workforce. And if you want to see the entire interview, leave me a comment and let me know. I don't always post these kinds of interviews, but if there is interest, I definitely will. Also, if you can think of any other threats to a business like Shopsmith, anything else that could, derail their plans for, future success, leave me a comment and let me know. I'd be really interested to know what you have to say in terms of, what could potentially impact their strategy. At the end of the day, Shopsmith is a great American company, and it's making a comeback. And I really wish them the best and hope that their new plans and their new strategies pay off. But I want to know what you think. Do you think that Shopsmith is poised to make a comeback? Or do you think that they're just a tool company of the past? If you don't already have a Shopsmith, would you consider buying one? Again, leave me a comment and let me know. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. I love reading those comments, so keep them coming. If you like this video, be sure to hit that like button, share it with somebody else that might find it interesting, subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you in the next one.